everyone. Welcome. My name is Elaine, and I'm here with Keegan. This is the Still Human podcast. We created this because we wanted to help make a difference for entrepreneurs, and we wanted to pull back the curtain to show what happens behind a real-life coaching business. And we both have this comedic background, so it just seemed like the perfect melting pot. So if you're new to us, welcome. We're so glad you're here. And if you've been coming before, thank you. Please help spread the word. Like, subscribe, rate, and review. That helps us grow. Because we have some fun messages, right, Kathy? Am I right?
If I may bring out the Bostonian in me, we have some wicked fun messages.
Wicked fun. And that is what I'm all about today, because we are recording on December 31st. And I feel like a big ball of like,
oh my God.
I just got back from Texas. We had 3 COVID scares. It was amazing and challenging. And, just like life times 10.
I swear to God, you just took the right out of my mouth. I was going to say the exact same thing.
Yes. Well, tell me, how was your holiday so far?
So things are fine. I mean, in some ways things are totally fine, and in other ways things are insane. My email is full today of everybody who's doing a New Year's Eve. We're going to look at our year in review. We're going to look at, what we want to do. What's our word for the year? It's just full of all of these kind of invitations. And,
wow.
And it's sort of like it's overwhelming.
Well, I didn't get any, so you're lucky. You're lucky.
But does that mean you're not checking your email?
No, I'm checking my email, but maybe I've unsubscribed to all the people who are doing something on New Year's Eve, or maybe I'm going to get off this podcast and I'll be like, oh my God, I shouldn't have said anything. I have plenty of things I need to respond to. But so are you not going to do a Zoom pajama party for New Year's Eve where you do vision boards and your word for the year, Kathy?
I am absolutely 100% not going to do that.
Ooh.
It's just, I was talking with a friend earlier today, and she's an architectural historian. In fact, we're probably going to have her on this year.
Wow.
And one of the things that we talked about is that almost anything we're dealing with today, unless it's some kind of new technology, isn't new. It's all not new. It's all we've been here before, and so I get so caught up in the energy of all this. And then I can stop and I realize, oh, I can choose to be in the energy of this, but I also have the ability now to say, I'm just going to step away for a few minutes and do my meditation anyway. Because what happens to me is I get very, very excited. I was that kid that looked out the window all night long for Santa's sleigh.
I bet you were so cute.
Long. I mean, that was talk about someone who took it way further than anyone ever meant it. But that was me. So my expectations are off the chart. And it's so easy for me to get swept up into that whole thing. And it's not that I don't want to enjoy myself. It's just that sometimes it feels like it's so much because you're doing all this stuff. And then Christmas happens and you're like, what happened?
So many great points. You just dropped some pearls of wisdom, girl. Woo! Kathy dropping some pearls. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And my pearls, I want you to know, my pearls are all in the shape of a microphone. So they're also like mic drop pearls.
Wow, mic drop pearls. Ooh, that could be a new thing. Maybe that's going to be part of our merch. No, I love that because I don't think I've ever been so grateful for my 12-step training and my meditation and my working out because, and I've learned, I've got teenagers as, my niece and nephew, and I've learned to not depend on them for my happiness or engagement. And I kind of thought that the worst was over because I'm a naive aunt. I thought that, they've gotten through the roughest years, 17 and 19. Oh, no. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. I mean, I felt like, do I have leprosy? Do I smell? They both were, in their rooms. I think I texted more often with them when I'm in New Jersey than spent any time with them in Dallas.
Wow.
But that, And just like, and I'm so grateful I still have my parents, but it's hard. It's so painful to see people you love who are struggling. And, you know, I know for me, I just felt so helpless, so inadequate and so helpless. And so again, you know, I'm just so grateful that I have, you know, programs with tools like meditation and prayer and reading and 12-step meetings on Zoom. And, you know, I really, that just grounds me. And I really wish everybody had access to some of those tools.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, because it, you know, in the ups and downs of life of like, oh my God, you were just around somebody who got COVID. Now you have to find a rapid test. Oh, let's drive all over the Dallas-Fort Worth area for 6 hours and then finally spend $100. Okay, I don't have it. Oh, and then a day later, my niece has a fee. Like it was just like, and I'm not complaining. I'm trying to like.
We had the exact same thing.
You know,
we had
the ups and downs and.
Oh, it was like my sister-in-law. Her husband had spent the whole day with his dad. He got diagnosed with COVID. They had to find testing, couldn't find testing. Then they found testing. And it was just, it is a roller coaster because because the other thing too is, you know, my sister-in-law is a pediatrician, and the things that they're seeing, there still aren't enough fully recognizable patterns because it's only been around for a short period of time. And so even from a medical perspective, you know, we're running a relay race, except we're running it at the same time and we're passing the baton back and forth. That's pretty much what's happening.
And we're all like, are we still going this way?
Exactly. And here's the thing, you make your pearls right here are so good that this idea that, you know, we have the tools, it doesn't mean the stuff doesn't happen. Because it still happens. And in some ways, I found that very disconcerting. Here's the thing, though. When you have the ability to pull out a tool and start to use it, it actually helps things pass a little bit more easily, a little bit more quickly. And so it allows you to move and pivot and find, sort of shift to a different state a little bit more rapidly. You know, I feel myself starting to get all like freaked out about something that's going on. And what can I do? I can go upstairs quickly, step aside, take a few breaths, and just shift. And I'm going to just say, once again, the small stuff is powerful. And I'm saying it as much to remind me as I am to remind our listeners. It's the small stuff is powerful. And I can't say it enough. So I'll shut up, though, but I might say it more.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And, you know, it just makes me think of, you can do whatever you want, girl. We were at this place called Whole Earth Provisions. It's kind of like a really cool, eclectic.
Oh, they have a catalog that's cool.
REI and, you know, just really fun gift things. They had a Richard Simmons book and one and two, and I loved him. But they had a book called JOMO, The Joy of Missing Out.
Oh, that's
and
true.
I was like, ooh, can I tattoo that right here? Because, you know, like for years and years and years, I was the party girl. I got my validation from being social and I'm invited to 8 parties tonight. And, you know, I'd spend my whole New Year's Eve like driving. And, you know, the thought of like staying at home tonight actually sounds really good. And that is a miracle for me, that I don't feel the pressure to like, I gotta be somewhere. It's like, no, I think we're in the middle of this thing. I just flew. I you know, nobody knows what's really happening again. I don't want to spread it, even if I don't have any symptoms.
Right.
God forbid, you know, whatever.
Not to mention the fact that you just flew, and boy, are my arms tired. Thank you so much. It's one of like 3 jokes I actually remember, and it's kind of not even a joke, but anyway.
That's a great point, Kathy. But yeah, it was, you know, managing a lot of disappointment. And like my nephew didn't come downstairs Christmas Day because he wasn't feeling well. And my sister and I were like, weirdest Christmas ever.
Yeah.
And, you know, but we kept laughing together. And, you know, I'm just a huge, you know, I teach reels on Instagram, and I was showing her all of these crazy dog videos. And we were laughing so hard. We were snorting. And, you know, that's like my greatest joy, is to make people I love snort. Like, that's just.
And
you
that's
know.
and we're clarifying that snort laughing. You're not snorting anything. You're laughing.
Right.
And it just
Snort
and
laughing.
it just feels
no
so good.
cocaine is involved.
You know,
Just
that was the fun too of being in Houston. You know, there were just moments where we cracked each other up in ways that, you know, that you laugh with family in ways that you may not. Well, you and I laugh that way. And it's so much fun. And you do have to constantly recalibrate because remember, these are days. So it's New Year's Eve, right? So what is that supposed to look like? Is it, you know, what is Christmas supposed to look like? What's the expectation? I found myself around Thanksgiving saying, you know, I feel like I'm trying to recreate something that never actually happened.
Right.
So I've infused stuff that never even happened in with something that I'm having an expectation about when, you know, here I am, here are the people I'm with. So what does that look like? And, you know, and if you are having an off day and it happens to be on Christmas Day, okay, that's all right. You know, but when we travel, we only have a limited time with the people we're visiting. Right. And so that's also puts a pressure on there because you kind of want to like, I've only got 5 days here or 3 days here and then I have to go. And so you kind of want to make some kind of a moment happen and maybe it does and maybe it doesn't. So it's just so human.
It is so human. And, you know, just that feeling of codependency or wanting to help certain people in my family and they don't necessarily want my help. Like, you know, but it's just my projection onto them and, you know, oh my gosh, it just was like right there. But I always think this is going to be good comedy material. And, you know, and I just, here's what I'm going to say to our fabulous, amazing listeners. Have I told you how gorgeous you look?
They look fabulous.
Yes, I pander away. No, you know, I came home from this weird Christmas and, you know, my flight got moved up. So I had to change some of my calls and I just had that weird, now I'm back in my space and I was emotional and maybe too much sugar. And I just knew, Elaine, I want you to make a dancing reel. I want you to do some dancing videos. And having something to focus on and letting myself be creative and giving myself permission to be a bad backup dancer for Adele, it lifted my mood immediately. And it gave me a purpose and it just, you know, and I'm just so grateful again, for tools. And so if anybody is listening and, you know, maybe you're listening to a recording and it's now July or whatever, but like, I think part of being human is we have these denouements, you know, where it's like this after the big event or the big whatever.
Yeah.
You know, there's something really magical about moving your body.
Oh, 100%.
And, you know, and I used to feel like, well, I have to go to the gym. I have to go to the spin thing. I have to go to yoga. But since I've been incorporating more dance and even like squats and like a lot of things that you don't have to have any equipment for, but I'm moving my body, I can feel my mood elevate.
Oh, it's so, and you know, this is the time of year when people, you call it, and I think it's right, you call it, what do you call it? What do you call January? It's like
self-hatred month.
Yeah, self-hatred month, because there's all this pressure to change all kinds of things. You know, I started doing strength training about 4 months ago, and I don't do it like a maniac. We had a guest on here, Kirsten Anderson. I started working with her, and the things that they're learning about exercise, the things they're learning about, you know, there's a lot of information out there, but the fact of the matter is, if you just start doing a little dance in the kitchen while your coffee is coming out of the percolator, that's exercise. You know, it's like we don't have to go so crazy, but I see these things all over the place. I passed a place and it was called Flawless Body. And I thought, is that a comedy club? Are you going to be kidding me? You know, and we still use terms like this and we hold ourselves to different people's standards. And I know because I don't speak about this as though I'm distant from it or as though I've totally nailed this, because I'm the same way. If I go a week and I haven't done anything, you know, that I consider to be, you know, something that's killing me because of my own training, then I think it's all gone. It's all ruined. I've lost the ability. I'll never be able to podcast again.
It's so crazy. I'm so grateful. I have a new client, and she's an old friend from a long time ago. Beautiful person, very talented, as a coach, a trainer, like so many things. And we were talking about bullying, being bullied. And I really believe that to whom much is given, much is expected.
True.
And because she is such a bright light and sort of an over-the-top personality, she has received a lot of flack in the past.
Of course, yep.
And so I'm so grateful that I have the opportunity. We're creating a whole video strategy, but I said, one of my biggest lessons was allowing myself to be bold and giving myself permission that some people are not going to like me. And if I'm committed to why I do what I do and who I help and why I'm uniquely qualified, then anybody who doesn't vibe with that, okay, no harm, no foul. Unfollow, keep scrolling, whatever. And if for some reason you feel the need to write a negative comment, I mean, I'm not encouraging that at all. Cancel. But it's not going to be the end of my life because my commitment is so much bigger. But yeah, I mean, I just think, social media, it's just a tool, right?
Absolutely.
It's just a tool. It is a neutral tool. And there are ways to navigate it so that you can keep your sanity.
Yeah. And you know what, Elaine, we can weaponize anything.
What?
Remember,
What do you mean?
And so the podcast ended. She was stabbed by a pen.
Through the Zoom screen. No.
Through the Zoom screen. So yeah, we can take that. How I always like to talk about spectrum, or do I have to say spectre or spectras?
Oh my God!
But I don't know. Let me pick another word that's safer.
The gamut.
A scale.
A scale.
So a range.
Not
a range.
Not a scale where you have to weigh yourself, because that's trigger word.
Trigger word. Trigger warning. We'd just like to announce a trigger warning. Over, do you read? So so scale in terms of, let's say, range, right?
Range.
And so we can fall all along there, right? And we can take anything and take it to its most extreme. I mean, that's something that we can do. We can do it with words, and we see it happening. The other thing to remember, and probably I've said it 1,000 times, but if you have your phone in your hand and you are in the middle of reacting, oh, good Lord in heaven, you do not want to be doing anything on Facebook or any of the social media, because all that stuff is stuff that we all go through, but we go through it in our head and we have a process for it, or we call a friend or something. But what happens is you've got that phone right next to you, like I always do. If I'm there, I'm going to say something, and I'm going to say something, we make jokes sometimes, Elaine, you and I, it's like, did I say that out loud? And I've said something out loud. Did I say that out loud? And we have a whole social media full of things that people said out loud in a reactionary moment. And It's stuff that they never really necessarily meant to share with anybody, but does create such a shaky foundation. And then you're really in an emotionally vulnerable place, and now you have people coming back at you with all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, it's I think that's what I try to practice is get on, be intentional about what I'm doing, and get off. That's what I want to do.
Right.
So well, cool. It's so good to catch up with you, because I know we didn't talk for a while.
Yeah,
and
did
you have Christmas in Chicago?
No, I was in Houston, and the week before. You were in Houston, right. So we're I'm of an age now where there's a lot of involvement with elder parents, and so my dad is 89. So I had an unexpected week up in New England. And it was very good. It was intense, though. A lot of things that, you're trying to address and take care of. And watching somebody get older, watching somebody get a little more feeble, but also seeing the things that inspire people. And so I traveled way more than I wanted to. I was up in Boston, then I came back. I was back for barely a day, and then we went down to Houston because that had been pre-planned. But it was interesting. You know, my dad, for all the, you know, he has a couple of compression fractures in his back. And it's fairly painful. And he didn't tell anybody about it. We had to kind of like drag it out of him. So we took him to a what do they call them? Physical therapist. My dad's been ballroom dancing for probably 30, 35 years, not competitively, but he started doing the exercises that this guy asked him to do and even got on the floor to demonstrate an exercise that he does and get up off the floor. This is an 89-year-old, right? And the physical therapist was like, you don't need me. Like, here are some exercises. Do these exercises because they will spur healing, which is another reason why you like to move around, because it spurs healing, right? And so he could do that. But most people that were coming in there, they can't get, you know, if they fall on the floor, they can't get up. Oh no, is this a new section of our program, Elaine? This is me talking about ailments and stuff. Oh, no. I just started doing it. But what I wanted to share, though, was what's inspiring to my dad is ballroom dancing. So if he thinks that something's going to help him with that, he will 100% do it. Purpose. What matters to you? What you were saying earlier, this is why I'm here. These are the things that matter to me. And this is what drives me on a daily basis.
I love it. And, you know, I'm thinking, you know, we're reflecting, right?
Yeah.
So I love to spend December reaching out to people, and especially if people I haven't talked to in a while, and the people that I met this past year, and just say, you know, thank you for the impact you had on my life. Like, I'm so grateful I got to meet you and do an interview or have a connection call or whatever. And then I also think about, like, well, what are we creating, right? Like, completing 2021 and saying goodbye powerfully, and then, like, what do I want to create? And so one of the things I also love to do that I'm going to be working on tonight is forgiveness. Like, celebrate the accomplishments and then forgive yourself for being human. Because if you're a AAA personality like me, I had some big plans. And yes, I stretched, and I did a lot. I did 3 shoots. I coached this whole mastermind. I went to Sedona with you and with Kathy. Like, there were some really cool things that happened this past year. And I think it's so important to forgive ourselves for what we didn't get to, or for what didn't work out.
Yeah. Oh, what a beautiful sentiment. And we are notorious for it's actually wired into our system. There's something called an overconfidence bias, which is where we predict that we can do more than we actually can do. It happens all the time. And because the thing is, there's the thing that we want to be able to do because it's in our hearts. It's like, this is the thing I really want to be able to achieve. And then anyone who's ever worked on a project or lived in the real world, there are things that maybe throw you a little off, or maybe there's something you end up finding out you got to do before you do this next thing. And so I love that idea of just saying, forgive. You know, forgive. It's like, it's not a moral issue. The things that we didn't accomplish or that didn't happen yet, they didn't happen yet. Not yet. And it's just such a gentle way to close out the year. And remember, it's also just a Saturday tomorrow. It's both New Year's Day, but it's also Saturday.
It's just another day, right? Just, we have created this whole measurement system. And it's just, you know, one day at a time. So, but I just love thinking of, like, completing the past, and then what do I want to create? What am I yearning for? And, you know, I just want to share, my sister and I always watch a bunch of movies. And last night I watched Being the Ricardos. And I have a special relationship with Lucy because I didn't know her growing up. My mother didn't like her. and didn't realize how brilliant she was. And so I had a roommate in college who kind of said, oh, this is episode 39, which she almost messes up with the, like, he was so great. But it was so cool to watch the movie. And there were two women in the movie that I know, not very well, but Kathy, it was so hard for me. Like, because, like, on one hand, I'm so happy for them.
Yep.
And on the other hand, especially the younger one, I just kept thinking, it could have been me. And, you know, she's younger than me. She did this improv thing and then a web series, and, you know, just it kept going and going. And she got to play the female writer who got to freaking write for Lucille Ball. Like, you know,
yeah.
and so it stirred me up.
Sure.
I don't want to admit this. But, you know, jealousy, envious. And so I keep, you know, I've been processing this today, and I'm like, well, what is my takeaway is that I want to be even more creative next year. And I want to keep writing new material, you know, no matter what. And, you know, I'm just happier when I have that outlet.
Yeah. And so what
You know?
you're describing something really, really beautiful, which is, first of all, the natural feelings that you have. I know I've seen some people this past year who've had enormous success by any measure. And on the one hand, super happy for them. On the other, I feel a little bit of grieving, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I've learned is to grieve that, to have the feelings around it. And then the thing that you so skillfully did, which was turn your energy towards, what would I like to do? How do I want to use that energy? Because we have the option to use the energy to dig ourselves a deeper hole. We have the option to use the energy to go down that rabbit hole of this isn't right, this isn't right. But we have to remember all of that's a story that we are crafting, right?
Yeah.
And you said you felt those feelings, and then you said, so where do I want to be? How is this informing me? And instead of going down this rabbit hole forever, you said, what do I want to create? What a powerful thing.
Well, and I love that. And it's all about the reframe, right? It's all about the reframe, you know? So maybe that's going to be my motto for 2022.
Well, and you know,
it's all about the reframe, baby.
And we just dropped that episode that you found, which was our very first time, you and me, on Zoom together, trying to do that recording. And it just got published, I think, earlier this week. And it's, you know, it's still the same in some ways. Right. And yet, I think part of the difference, so even as I look back over a couple of years, there's more satisfaction and more ability to actually be grateful. Because sometimes things are huge and we have these global connections, and there are many, many things that are so much bigger than who we are. And when you're there and you're next to a giant, you're kind of like, well, how can I make a difference? But the thing is, you can on a daily basis, and you do, you know, in your local area with the people that you're around. Right. You know, and you make somebody laugh on the plane. You're nice to somebody.
So I went to this cookie exchange, and my sister had to like sit me down because she was like, "You are not allowed to eat the cookies," and I was like, "Okay." She goes, "I started this 10 years ago, and if you eat the cookies, I will not be asked back." And I was like, "Okay," you know. And everybody, it was really fascinating. It was like 30 women come together with 3 dozen cookies of their best cookie, and they kind of decide via email, somebody's going to do a brownie, somebody's going to do blah, blah, blah. So it's like all these different homemade cookies, and it was in this adorable little house, and the back room was like the cookie room, and everybody puts all these cookies in a thing, and then everybody had to take numbers, and I didn't get to take a number because my sister was representing us, you know. And so then when it's your turn, you go in with your own container and you take one cookie from everybody else. And then if there's enough, you go back for a second round. So I got to do like the third round leftovers, which I was fine with. But it was so cool because it was like women coming together and collaborating.
Yeah,
Right?
there was a structure around it. In some ways, it's a ritual, isn't it?
Yeah.
That we all, and, I would just encourage people who are listening, I bet you already have rituals in place.
Right.
Chances are, because we tend to be very ritualistic, whether we identify it or not. And that's a wonderful way because it creates a gathering. There is a purpose and there's an order to how things are done.
It was so cool. So anyways, I'm sitting there and most people had masks on. Some people didn't. And I'm talking to this woman and I'm like, so what do you do? Blah, blah, blah. And she's like, well, right now I'm trying to sell this apartment building that's like a landmark. It's from the 30s. Art. I mean, it just sounds so cool. It's in Fort Worth. And she goes, but I waited tables forever. And so then I start talking about, oh yeah, I did too, and blah, 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 blah. And I started at this certain place when I had 1 year sobriety. And she goes, oh my God, I worked for the same company and I'm sober too. and I'm in real estate too. And we both were like, get out. Like,
so cool.
I mean, what are the odds of that? And my sister laughs because anytime I travel, I usually run into somebody that I know, just because I don't understand why, but like we were in Europe, I ran into people, Canada, I've run into people, Mexico, like it's just
anywhere.
And so she was like, of course, all the same people. So, anyway, it was just cool. Like you just never know who you're going to meet. And then she picked me up and we went to a meeting, which was awesome.
Oh, wow.
And, it's like the gift of being of service.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it was actually the fact that I needed a ride actually helped her.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's like we're all so interwoven.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a great story. Isn't that amazing? That happens with my husband. With
oh my
Doug.
God.
We'll go somewhere and it'll be like, oh yeah, I just ran into someone I know. Or they'll be like, Doug? It's kind of like, what is the movie Best in Show? Cookie Googleman?
Right. I was at St. Patrick's Cathedral because they do a marathon mass, which is hilarious. And they're all these marathon runners and they go up to the front and the priest blessed them. And then the organ guy goes crazy. And usually there's a priest or two that's got to do
dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, right. And so I'm standing there. I was with my boyfriend at the time. He was running, and I had an injury, so I wasn't. And I hear this, are you Elaine Williams? And I was like, oh my God. It was like a friend of mine from Dallas who was running. So anyway, it's a small world. But, I mean, I guess what my message is, it's okay to miss out. It's okay to have the joy of missing out and the power of laughter and of grounding rituals. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to be my theme for 2022. And I don't have to go to a Zoom party to do that. I'm just like, it's all about the reframe, right? It's like we have, 65,000 thoughts a day. Yeah. And most of them are negative and self-hatred, full of self-hatred. So like, why not make up some good ones? Right.
I think that's 100% the brain. Remember, the brain's main function is not to think. So, the brain,
makes me laugh.
The brain is running our operating system. We got a lot going on in our miracle bodies, even though we may not feel that way certain days. And you're right. We can change some of that. Remember, some of it is the wiring. The wiring is there to protect us from some kind of danger, right? And so we have a chance to look at that and make a decision about it. You can look at it and say, is this the direction I want to go? There's a woman by the name of Jill Bolte Taylor. I think I've talked about her on here before, who had a stroke. She wrote this great book called My Stroke of Genius, and she has another book out that I'm hoping to get soon.
Does she have a TED Talk?
Yes, she does. Yes. She has a TED Talk.
Yeah.
And one of the things that she discovered is that emotions last up to like 90 seconds or something like that. After that, what fuels it is the story you're telling yourself about it.
Oh my gosh. Can you say that again?
So emotions last around 90 seconds. After that, what fuels it is the story you're telling yourself. Because basically what's happening is our brain is a step ahead of us. This I don't understand yet. But one of the things I do recognize is that my brain is always trying to come up with stuff, to help me understand the present moment. And so if I'm hanging on to something, it'll be like, well, how about this? How about that? I sort of feel like that's what's going on and what's coming up. And I do have the opportunity to say, no, I'm not going to go there with that. Let's just, let it go. I see it. I recognize it. And, let's just table this for now, because the only place I'm going is into some kind of an old story that, why bring that stuff up and relive it?
I have been catching my thinking a little bit on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that. It's so great. So Kathy, what is going to be your, do you have a takeaway or a big intention for 2022?
For me, I think it's just really about the day-to-day and, and continuing to show up for the things that I'm able to show up for. It's, I'd love to have and make, there are times when I want to have a grand plan and I have all my fun Inkjoy pens and, I draw things in different colors. Right now, it's really just about, dealing with the fact that we're still in the middle of a pandemic when we thought we'd be out of it. And just showing up for the day-to-day. And that means showing up for myself. It means learning how to take care of my body in a way that is not about me. I'm only going to be if I get smaller or bigger, it's a bigger or smaller version of me.
Right.
Right. And so why am I doing strength training? Because it activates muscles that I haven't used in a long time that my body needs in order to function. That's it.
That's it.
It's really simple. And I want to take a page from yours, which is the forgiveness part, both self-forgiveness and just general forgiveness. We're human. We're all doing the best we can.
Yeah.
I mean, even the assholes.
Yeah, especially the asshole. This lady, so, I'm flying to Dallas. It's a packed flight. If I have the time, I usually try to gate check my bag just to let somebody else who might be in a hurry, if I have time, I'll do that. That's one of my ways of, So I get on and I like the window, so I try not to drink too much. The lady in front of me starts painting her fingernails. And if in case anybody has not ever been it is such a toxic smell. Not to mention highly flammable. So I'm like, what is happening? So I'm like, oh my God. So I see her. She's literally, and I said, that's really a toxic smell. Can you please don't do that? And so she kind of rolls her eyes at me and then puts it away. And then a few minutes later, I smell it again. And I was like, oh no. I was like, do not be one of these. You're going to get kicked off the plane. There's going to be a viral video of you. So I was this close to pushing the flight attendant button because I was like, I said, are you kidding? Are you kidding? And I think she could tell ooh, I better, so she put it away. But, I kept thinking this is going to be comedy material.
Oh my God. It's like somebody bringing steamed broccoli on the plane. Do you know how many people would start barfing in their airbags? My God. You're in a confined space.
It's amazing to me how completely unaware or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I did a reel about it, Yeah. And the best way for me is to be creative. So Kathy, I could talk to you all day, but I feel like we should wrap up.
Absolutely.
So you are such a good coach and speaker and human being. And I know you love to work with people who are feeling stuck in their job, in their corporate job. Either they want to quit and they're like, or they're not ready to quit, but they're not empowered.
Yeah.
And so that's really your sweet spot.
It is.
So if people want to find out more about you.
You know what? I'm still at KathyKeegan.com. I've kept all my data the same for consistency's sake. And Elaine, you too, let's talk about how to get in touch with you. Because this girl, she's just a step ahead of tomorrow. Let me just say that.
Oh, thank you. I'm having so much fun with my reels. I'm getting engagement on Instagram and clients. And
awesome.
I'm still doing stuff on other platforms, but I'm really having a blast on Instagram. And I'm teaching another Reels class in January. I'm starting a new group program. If you know of anybody who needs to work on their speaking and or video, please send them my way, or I'm happy to talk to anybody listening. And the easiest way to get a hold of me is Elaine at Captivate the Crowd, both with C's, Kathy's with 2 K's, and that Captivate the Crowd is with C's. So that is Elaine, Elaine, at Captivate, CAPTIVATE, the crowd.com.
MOUSC.
So, thank you so much. And
thank you.
For our listeners, we're going to start doing some Still Human stuff in the new year. We have a really cool freebie we're working on. We're working on some very cool things and some more interactive things. So make sure you stay tuned. Please bring a friend. Please rate, review, subscribe.
Yes.
So that we can grow and get our messages of love and laughter out into the world, because we need it now more than ever.
It is so true.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody. Take care.
Thanks
Thank you so much for listening. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.